You was thinking that was upset.
Well, hey, we didn't know. Listen, most of our offense is different, and I think the only thing we have left over from previous season was some of our secondary. So it was all new coach. You never knew what was going to happen. But hey, we were close to doing it, though. We were close. Couple, you know how it goes. One or two plays.
We're going to call our special called city council meeting for the purpose of budget workshop and public hearing. I need a motion for the adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, finance, Ms. Hallman.
All right, good evening. Okay, this is just a quick snapshot after the last meeting where the vote was to roll back the millage rate. We went back, we being myself, Deputy City Manager, and Deputy Finance Director, to see what kind of proposed cuts we could bring before y'all to still have a balanced budget. This is just a summary right here of each of the funds, and you can see in the general fund, because that's where we have the millage rate, or where taxes are levied. We were able to find $291,329 to remove or to cut from the budget. Of that amount, $166,193 was in some capital. That's why you see down there at the bottom, the capital projects general fund was reduced as well. So the items that we're proposing, we'll start with the revenue. We brought before y'all a budget of $22,805,348. We are proposing, of course, due to the rollback, the reduction in property tax of $274,854. And then, if you remember, any type of admin cost or admin positions within the general fund, if they're cut or when they're added, remember, water and sewer and solid waste also makes their contribution or pays part of those cost, and that's reflected as a transfer into the general fund. So when we remove something from the general fund, we're actually removing the expenditure, but we're also not capturing that reimbursement from the water and sewer and sanitation fund. So that is where the loss of $16,475 is coming from. So our new proposed revenue is $22.5 million. On the expenditure side, in order to have a balanced budget, we are proposing to remove the vacant public information officer position for salary and benefits of $67,380. And also remove the new grounds equipment operator position at $57,756. And then the last item is to reduce the North Avenue Chapel reno that we had in the budget for around $258,000. We reduced it to $92,000. So that was a reduction of $166,193. So those three items help offset the reduction in the revenue on the general fund side. All the other funds, with the exception of the capital for the general fund, remain the same.
I'm sorry, I was reading and totally missed your explanation for the water and sewer fund. Will you go back to that?
Yes, the admin cost. Are you
Yes,
talking about
I'm
that?
sorry.
Yes.
I
No,
was
that's
reading
fine.
ahead of you.
No, you're good. You're good. Of course, you know, a lot of your admin departments being finance, city manager, HR, IT, all of that services water and sewer employees too. So we're allowed, and sanitation, so we're allowed to charge those funds a certain percentage to pay the general fund back for offering to do the accounting, do the HR and everything within those two funds.
So you're charging who exactly?
The water and sewer fund and the sanitation and solid waste fund. It's an expense on their fund, is a transfer out to reimburse the general fund for a small percentage of what it costs for them to have their own accounting staff, HR staff, IT staff. It's just a way to show the full cost of what it would take to run a water and sewer fund if they had all the admin departments included as well.
Okay, is that something that we typically do?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
No, you're
it's
good. No.
brand new to all this, so
Yes.
just trying to figure out exactly
It's
where we're
very
at.
custom, it's very normal, and everybody that has an enterprise fund, because you're supposed to run it as a business.
Right.
You're trying to show the true cost of operating that fund.
I
And
remember
whether
when
John
I
wants to
didn't,
admit it or not, he couldn't do it without accounting.
I remember when I didn't know what an enterprise fund was, then I learned about it, and then I could explain it to constituents,
No, I
but
appreciate that very much.
Yes.
rather than them hiring their own staff, which they
Exactly.
don't need, they can just pay a portion, use a city staff, and it's just because they operate like a separate unit, and they're supposed to be self-sustaining. So they have to pay for the additional
Is when we reduce
help.
the expenditures, then we have to reduce how much they pay us, because we took away a vacant public information officer position, which is part of the admin part. So that is why when we did that, it automatically said, okay, well, the Water and Sewer and Sanitation Fund does not owe us a certain amount, because we reduced an admin position.
Y'all go ahead and ask if you have questions, because mine's going to be rapid fire, like page kind of question, and I hope most of it's rapid. We all hope most of it's rapid, so does everybody in the audience and the staff. So if you have questions, go for it.
I mean, my only comment, really, from my conversations with interim city manager Reese and staff is that I think it's, as they presented tonight, recommendation is to reduce other capital projects and continue with the salary study and COLA. So, you know, I don't really have any objection to that per se, if they were able to make those numbers work. I don't really have any objection to the cuts that they made on the capital side. My only concern primarily was that we were doing cuts in our budget that would affect the citizens more directly, you know, stuff that was, you know, street improvements or recreation improvements. But looking through the budget request that were emailed me after last meeting, you know, I feel pretty content with what they did cut. It was more equipment or things that they would have liked to have, but not necessarily was required. So I don't have any other questions besides that, but that was just more or less my statement, put it that way.
So I'll have to disagree just a little bit on how the staff would not impact citizens. At the beginning of the discussion about budget, I was very much on board with splitting up the increases, and after the last meeting where it was explained that the salary increase had been recommended before, and that it had been proposed to split up that salary before, and it had never actually been implemented. That is such a huge upset that the government failed to do that for you guys. And I want to be clear, going back to what I was saying didn't directly impact citizens. Our staff does directly impact citizens, and the reason being is because our staff works in a way that directly impacts our citizens. Parks and Rec, your water and sewer, your public safety. All of that is a direct impact on the citizens. And our staff needs to be, they need to be compensated fairly for that. And I don't believe that any of our citizens would have any sort of issue with their tax dollars going to properly compensate the employees who do directly impact everything that they do in this city.
I don't necessarily, I'm sorry, I don't necessarily disagree with that at all. I guess my thought was more of I was thinking more tangible things like a new playground or something like that. But you're right. I mean, staff that is happy and loves to do their job and does good work is probably the largest benefit, to any citizens that we have in the city. But that's more of an intangible kind of thing.
Well, and new parks are wonderful, but
Right.
who is going to do the maintenance on those new parks?
It's a good
Those
thing.
are going to be, that's going to be our staff, and our staff should be properly compensated for that.
Right.
I thought, well, I go along with what Stephanie was saying. Like the partial cutback. And then you've got the staff that have worked for years and years. Some of them not getting a raise. And then you got this, and then with the plan that they've got, then if you hire somebody tomorrow, next week, they're going to be with the new pay scale, and then this person that have been there for years and years with no pay, that does not seem right to me. I just don't see that happening. But if you can show me where that's working, I'm fine. And then talking about the playground or the park, I've worked closely with Mr. Reese on dealing with this park. And I know that there are plans in order, or plans he's working on, that would get this park and the playground with grants and things that he has from the railroad and all this, So to say that we don't need a park or a playground and that it will impact the city, I don't think that's so. We need to wait to work something out where it will benefit our people, not just one section, but anybody that wants to go and be a part of this park or this playground. I think we should work closely with Mr. Reese or Miss Diana to help us get this going, and that we can find some way to compensate our employees better than they are done now. That's my say.
Can I just add, because I agree 100%, like, I thought that the park was just a hypothetical example. I didn't realize we were talking about the exact park over and,
As far as what I was saying, it was hypothetical.
okay, thank
Yes,
you.
it was just hypothetical.
Because I did
I
not
was just
mean that we
kidding.
do not need a park over there.
Yeah, I was just giving
Anywhere,
examples.
as
Yeah.
long as
Yes,
yeah.
my understanding is, as far as the park in the community of Darden, Cleghorn, Anderson, that is going to be through grants and other things. By no means am I saying that we do not need a park over there. But with that said, somebody still has to maintain it.
Right.
The more you own, the more you have to maintain. Learn that in your own life.
Of course.
Let me say this, that one thing that was helpful that Councilman Momtahan brought up last time is that having that list, and I did not get to that today, I wanted to look over that list again of all the cuts that had been made prior. Because what I'd like to see us do, and I hope we could be in agreement on this, is when certain funds, almost every year, there'll be things where additional money, we'll get additional SPOS money, we'll have the unfilled positions, and we'll make budget amendments. I would like us first, before we go, well, we can pivot that over this department. Let's look at that list of things we cut and prioritize that, unless it's an emergency. Emergency fix you have to do. And you don't always have that budgeted, worked in with that extra money. Although I know we have money set aside in water and sewer, we kind of expect that we're going to be fixing things. So that list needs to be available to us so that when we do make those amendments, we look at those items that were requested that got cut. And I'm expecting, because we've done it before, that we'll be able to go back and put in some things we cut. And anyway, glass is half full, And I know it's still some tough economic times, but we also got some really good things going on in economic development. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to start in the book here, and so that y'all may have some input here, but these are pretty much going to be questions about a few things. Okay. First one, and it's actually up here, would be, let's go straight to expenditures. So expenditures and the governing body is the first one. These are just ideas for where we might and will save money, if we choose. All right, so 38 through 40. You see the picture of us, all right? So let's think about that contingency fund. Sometime it might be, I don't want to use the word padded necessarily, but because we know we're going to hire a consultant, or we have the auditors, or whatever, and it's not budgeted, we might put extra money in there for the contingency fund because who we know is going to come out of our budget to hire that consultant or whatever. If we don't have that, then let's at least consider maybe backing off that 100,000 for us. Also, these are smaller amounts, but not all of us go to the training. Go over to Savannah for the convention. That might be, 3,000 or 4,000. It may not be a whole lot. It depends on who goes and who doesn't. I was fortunate enough to pick up some additional training right in Carrollton last year. I had to pay for the 2-day conference, but I didn't have to pay for any of the paid classes because I looked at those and I pretty much had those, but they were offering free classes as once you paid for the convention. So I didn't have to pay for a hotel. I didn't even bother with the gas. I just drove down to Carrollton 2 days and was able to pick up some additional classes that would help me here. And also, you usually end up networking with some of the GMA people and picking up some little helps, and people that you network on city questions and problems. So that was all I had on the governing body, is maybe we should look at reducing that. When you go to page 41 under city manager, y'all have done this. You've done the public information officer. My opinion, we never could justify a full-time person for that position for our size. And I'll use the county as an example. The county has a public information officer that they share with the sheriff's department, and that's countywide. And we're a city. And it became a little clear as we watched things occur over those period of maybe 3 years, I'm trying to remember, I don't think it was entirely 4, that it seemed to prove itself to not really be a full-time job.
Which one you talking about?
Public information officer. Now, the only discrepancy I had is I had that with the salary increase, it was going to be a $55,000 job, but y'all have listed as a 67. Oh, I'm sorry, that's with the benefit. Makes a big difference. Health insurance, those benefits, you've got to pay Social Security, unemployment, everything else. That's it. That's what I missed. The other number I was looking at did not include benefits. So that's just so that was one of mine, but y'all took it out, so it's done. And it's listed on page 42 as three staff members are listed on page 41, and when you go to 42, it still includes travel for 3 people and a few other things that are related to 3 employees, and it will now be 2. So I'm gathering that we'll probably be able to decrease. That'll be minimum compared to the salary and benefits. Can I get an explanation on page 43 under food, employee luncheons, public input meetings, and other meetings? That jumped a lot, but I know it's not the leadership luncheons, because they're separately listed. What is that?
So the actual change itself, all of those items are still funded here, but rather than each department having an independent food budget, everything was moved under the city manager's office for control and consistency among departments.
Good. Okay, that's probably a good idea. So that does include,
That is everyone else's food budget. So if there is a storm in the middle of the night and a tree
Right.
falls, power goes out, guys work all night, we need to bring coffee, something, get them going, it includes that.
yeah, and they have been, when the roads were iced over, out all night long salting the roads and things like that. All right. Okay, good. Great. One less tab. All right, page 45. Travel, 7,500. This is out of the clerk's department. What is 7,500 for travel? Because we don't have anything like that in our travel for our somebody tell me what that is. Yeah.
We did not use the full amount, but it is 2 people going to, and we also did not go to Savannah last year, but we have 2 required conferences each year. One is in Jekyll, one is in Athens is coming up. And so that is the per diem gas charges and the hotel for
Okay.
those 2, for 2 people to go to 2 conferences a year.
Okay, so the education and training is 4,300, but the hotel and travel, can we at least look at that? That seems very different from when we go over to Savannah. I'll leave that down. But I know I told the city I could save them money if they didn't do that per diem thing back when we used to get reimbursed for receipts. I'm telling you, I go, if there's free food, I'm there. I'm like, why? Yes, ma'am.
Why are we reimbursing if there's free food? Okay, so y'all do the thing that if there is a lunch or something provided, the travel does not get.
Correct.
The employee traveling does not get per diem for that particular meal.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, Louise is very good. All the department heads know Louise will fine tune the per diem checks
okay.
to not
Oh,
include.
so honestly, I did not know that, because I'll tell you right now, there's companies that sometime invite 5 cities to an event. Y'all know that, and you know what we're signed up for, and it's
If
reduced.
it's within the conference itself, now, if they
Right,
go and
okay.
then something
All right.
changes while they're there and some
Okay.
vendor asks them to go to dinner, now that's something totally separate.
Right, okay, that's what I was wondering, because that sounded foreign to me. But I have been where lunch is included with the class. It's one of those long ones that you're at for a lot of hours. It's included with it. Okay.
Okay, and I was gonna say, isn't that a state rule that, anything associated with the conference, not anything outside, but that's a state rule that can't be reimbursed with per diem, correct? Because that's how it was when I worked for the state.
I'm not sure if it's the state rule, but I mean,
We follow GSA.
Okay, then it is, thank you.
I'm telling you, I could still save money if it were the receipts. Because there is, like I said, there's companies that'll have receptions and things like that. You're amazing. You can just, have dinner on appetizers. Travel and education training, probably a conference, page 53, this is under IT. And I know IT has to stay up on the technology stuff and network with others, because I've seen what's happened to the cities that have gotten hacked. So I was just looking at, is the travel in this, we were getting reports, so I'll bring this up now. And so I think it's working, that we're still getting those reports when people go to training, and we know if it's out of state, because we want to justify that way. A number of years ago, we did have some issue where it wasn't necessary to go out of state. That training could have been available, not necessarily locally here, but within Georgia. And caught it a number of years ago, and just want to make sure we're keeping an eye. If somebody has to go out of state, but we're supposed to get that in our employee report on training. I'm not sure if we're still getting that aspect of it, so let me just throw that out there. If they go out of state for training, We just want to know. We're not asking to give an okay, but we want to know. Got it. Okay, thank you very much. Human resources. Don't worry, I'm not going to pick on y'all long. Page 54. So this is the front page, and we're talking about education and training budget, includes leadership training for department heads, also professional services for evaluation and coaching for directors. So the evaluation is where the department heads would be trained on doing evaluations for the people working under them, right? And then the coaching for directors would be the additional help each department head would get, or y'all getting
Yes.
trained on the coaching to work with the employees?
Right. Well, we haven't had performance evaluations in the past couple years, so we are revamping them, going to teach them how to do it through Paycom and streamline it and make it more of a deadline, has to be done every year type of thing. So they will need some training when we go through that process.
Excellent. Did you know that? Did you know we
No,
weren't doing it?
I did not know that we had not done evaluations in a couple of years. So, if we are implementing this again in the future, our pay raises, will they coincide with the performance of that employee?
My goal is to have annual employee evaluations done at the same, they have to be done at the same time every year, and it will coincide with the budget. So then we can talk about COLAs and merit increases all at the same time.
So we're gonna have those employees eager to go clean those parks because they're gonna get more of a pay raise, correct?
Yes.
See, there we go.
All right, and thank you for hitting that point, because part of what I had was merit pay, justify salaries, right? We're
Yes.
talking about getting people up to at least mid-level on the
yes.
salary study. When was the last salary, this one that we're basing, that we're working off of now, what year was that done?
It was done last summer, summer
Okay.
of '23.
Okay. That might be why I'm not familiar with it, because some years ago, I don't remember if you were on here, Councilman
I
Momtahan,
don't think it was as extensive as the one prior, like in 18, I
yeah.
feel like.
the one that was.
This
ni-
one was way more extensive than the
Oh,
one
it
that
was?
was done in '18.
Oh, okay.
Was 18 ever fully implemented?
No, the third year was never implemented.
I just don't
Okay, and it
remember any
was a
discussion
3-year.
of it.
And the only reason I'm asking is this brought up the whole memory of me of how much more the council was in the weeds in a good way. We heard from the company who was doing it. We heard about how they were doing it. And I don't know anything about how the last one was done. I'm not
They-
saying it wasn't
Yeah.
great. It may have been
Yeah.
fabulous.
They did come out to the workshop last year.
Maybe when I wasn't
budget
in office or
workshop.
something. I
Not
made
sure.
one meeting.
They came out there and
yeah.
did a presentation.
I was there for the first meeting, then I had to resign to run for mayor.
Maybe
Okay.
then, yep.
I
Okay,
probably
that
missed
makes
that
sense
then. Okay, well, good.
Mayor, I think-
Yes,
Councilwoman Carter and Councilwoman
yes,
McCoy both.
go.
Is the salary study portion of the pay raise, is that from 2023 last year, or is that from back to 18?
From 2023.
It is last year?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yep.
year before last.
Probably a COLA.
'Cause the
Would
other
that have
one's
been the
so
COLA
outdated.
raise?
It says the original salary study is what it's based on. and
Yes,
that's last year,
yes.
or 23?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to ask, I know it's been obviously a minute since we've done evaluations and increases. Is this going to coincide with the fiscal year, or is, like, for instance, are these evaluations and merit raises going to be effective October 1st?
Yes.
Or are they going to be effective like maybe December or something?
No, my plan was to have them effective the same time as the budget.
Okay, and
fiscal year.
why I was asking that, to see if there was any kind of like lag time, to see if there was
Yeah.
with the budget.
All right, so I know for us, it will be really important to have those department heads to, in a sense, be responsible for the people under them, to give the feedback to the city manager so that we'll know and that we make a good decision
Yes.
on it, okay? Yes, Chief? You've been
Can I
here a
add to
few
this?
years and have experienced this,
I
haven't you?
have. So The police department's been doing evals for the last, I think, a little over a year. We created our own instrument. We got it from other agencies, and we've been doing them just because we knew we needed to do them because we have so many young people. So we do it on the anniversary of the officer or the employee. So whatever their anniversary is, the evals do right then on their anniversary. So we have been doing evals, even though we haven't been doing them citywide. The police department has been doing them.
Thank you, y'all, for getting back on that and instituting that. I wasn't aware that that had stopped. I'll also say that I was talking to another elected official, and they mentioned that there is a way, and I don't know, I need to check with a few educators too, because they're probably used to this in the education field. There's a way to even audit evaluations to a degree. That's where, say, I'm a department head and my buddy, I kind of just give them an A+ every time, and it doesn't quite look right. It's kind of like if you, this sounds bad, but you know what I mean? So that you know that it's accurate, that somebody's not doing somebody a favor, and there's a way to do that, and I bet you have a point. You've seen that done.
Yes, and the best way to do that is, so the direct line supervisor should be the one providing the most feedback if they're working with that team member day in and day out. And then it would go to that next level department manager, and then it can go all the way up, whether it's a deputy city manager or city manager. So there's definitely some separation of duties and controls in there when reviewing.
Okay, and I'm not saying this because I don't trust y'all. I'm saying it because that accountability has to be everywhere, whether it's in a business, and it makes us more confident to be able to tell the people we represent that those things are being done, and when we're doing the salary studies and increases, we want you to know that we've been doing evaluations and making sure, that people are doing a good job in the position they're in. I think that's all I had on that. I know. Page 55. Okay, 55. This is still under Human Resources. The Admin America 360 evaluations, is that the company that's helping us do this? I wrote, my note says return on investment. Admin America 360 evaluations and coaching for directors, 15K, 9K. Boy, this is so small, I can barely see it. Includes the integration of the BET, Better Employee Transaction Interface System. I read the notes and I didn't know exactly what it was. Am I the only one? Do you know what that is?
Admin America is our FSA, so we pay admin fees to them. That's separate. I guess there should have been more separation. Admin America is one that we pay out of professional services, and then if, when we do the training for the 360 evaluations, that's where that cost will hit too.
Okay. And then, last one on that page 55, this is under education and training. We've kind of jumped all over the place on that. I know leadership training for department heads. Last year it was budgeted for 25,000, but year to date, 10 months in, it was 8,000. We budgeted 25. Give us a little bit of an idea of what the
So
plan is.
last year, we did the supervisor leadership training for the mid-level managers, and that ended in December. So we had anticipated starting one for the department heads after the new year, but then with Lena leaving and the transition and everything, that didn't quite happen this year. But we are working on that for this coming fiscal year to put the department heads through some similar training like we did the mid-level managers, and then obviously again with the counseling, coaching, training, and that kind of stuff for the evaluations.
So this is another reason why people getting paid fairly, a competitive wage, and morale, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on who, even the work environment with who they're working with, their department heads, is so important because you pay for this, train these things, and if those people leave, that goes with them.
Yeah.
So maintaining our employees is a big deal. Okay. Take a big leap to page 73. Technical Adobe Pro and software effects. Just tell me what it is. Oh, this is under Main Street, I'm sorry. That might help. It's under services, second line technical. The notes say Adobe Pro and software effects.
So those are the software programs that they use for a lot of their marketing and advertising that they do in-house.
Okay.
Graphics and stuff.
Marketing and ads. So will that kind of go in? Is that going to apply to when they, well, that might be tourism, people that are coming in and going out and coming to our events?
This is more in-house graphics, so when they update events flyers on their Facebook page,
I
overall
got it.
additions to their website, it's more internal
Got
marketing.
it, okay.
They need it.
All right, and under advertising, CVB had been paying for the news and views. That just, it says possible, this is advertising. Possible public information officer budget?
So we looked at two different places for this. This was the advertising that tourism was paying for, but it's essentially local advertising because it's advertising in the back page of the Douglas Sentinel, and I believe the Times as well. So this is a monthly ad placement, and frankly, we were rotating a lot of city-sponsored events that didn't pertain to tourism.
Okay.
So we felt like this was probably the most appropriate bucket for funding.
Okay, it just needed to be moved to a different place, okay, to what it applied to. Page 88. Roadway management technologies, is this what we got that reads the roads? And the question I wrote next to it was, how do you like it? Because it's beyond me. It was something new we added, so it's been, has it been about a year? When did we add that? And my question is, does it work for you? Another return on investment question.
So that
No.
took quite some time to actually implement. By the time we actually got the equipment outfitted onto the vehicles, the software uploaded into our system, the geomapping we had a hard time coming up with the geomapping. So we've had it for several months. The data's good. The data collected is good. The data that we've got is not good in respect to the condition of our roads, or exactly what we thought they were. But the good thing that it does show is preservation opportunities and all that other kind of stuff. So we are, with the roads that we're paving now, we should obviously see an improvement over that, and then we can start putting plans in place to begin preservation methods with the remaining streets and whatnot. It'll help us identify too opportunities for LMIG and whatnot. So it does collect, it does exactly what it's supposed to do. So yeah.
Okay, because
What
I
kind of-
know when.
What kind
oh,
of
go
data
ahead.
are you getting back?
So road conditions, again, preservation opportunities. So
Roughness of the road,
Pardon?
how rough the road is, stuff like that?
Oh, yeah, so it'll identify potholes, it'll identify gatoring, it'll identify progressive changes over time. I mean, minute changes that you wouldn't be able to identify as an individual, but the sensors can pick up minor degradations, and it can show on a graph that it's starting to decline, and then it will give you recommendations for preservation based on what it's collecting. It pulls in pictures of potholes, pictures of things to verify that that's what it's actually seeing. I mean, it's pretty impressive. I mean, I still haven't gotten into everything that it can do.
So it'll pick up even maybe before you see it on the surface.
Correct.
Whereas we know what do you call it, alligator or something, when the road starts to do that type of cracking. And of course, Punkintown has a great reputation for potholes. They're not the only ones, but.
Yeah, but it'll also pick up our improvements, the potholes that we repair, all of that kind of stuff too. So it'll show the changes.
So we really haven't had it that long, but it's doing what it said. I'm just curious, when you all go shopping for things, if you have a way, I don't mean, you don't go on TripAdvisor and read reviews, but if you know other cities, do they give you examples of other cities that are using, you can, for me, my go-to used to be Consumer Report. You know, I was buying something new around the house, from a car to a coffee maker. You could get reviews and all kinds of information. I would guess that the best way y'all get reviews is maybe, or recommendations, is talking to another city that uses it?
Yeah, and we did do that, and this AI technology is fairly new, but it is something that APWA has been extremely interested in. Actually, we are featured in the National APWA magazine, and there's an episode. The magazine hasn't come out yet, but there was an article written up about Villa Rica itself and us using that technology, and there are quite a few cities that are coming on board with it. So, yeah, it's a great. The AI is, I mean, it's scary, but at the same time, it can do a lot. It's impressive.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman McCoy?
But getting early data on the road that is crumbling, I couldn't think of a technical term, does that save us any money in the long run?
So it will, when we can implement preservation methods, it will allow the road to last longer. The problem is that so many of our roads are failing, or have failed, or in a failure status, that we really need to fix them so that we can continue to use preservation methods to prolong them. But preservation methods will make a huge impact on the longevity of the road.
Okay.
I'm not going to go back to 41, but I think, page 41, I think that's where I listed the chapel, and it looks like y'all took care of that too. You know how I feel about us getting in the wedding business for government. I just don't see it. And so I didn't know that 258,000. I was wondering, is there something in there? But I know there's still funding in there. It's been partially cut. So would that be something that would keep it from further deteriorating? For instance, if you own a piece of property, whether you kept it or not, you wouldn't want it to further deteriorate. If you had a bad roof, you'd want to take care of the roof, because if you kept it, you don't want things to get further damaged. And if you sell it, you don't want it to get further damage.
So Tracy can speak to essentially everything that it would cover, but if nothing else, it gives us an opportunity to take the time to look at the best use for that property. Whether it's a combination of city staffing, if it's a combination of an incubator, if it's a combination of future wedding chapel rentals, it gives us an opportunity to enhance the exterior and take time and evaluate.
Good afternoon. Yeah, so there's a few things that even if we come to the point where you guys decide to sell it, that we probably need to put a little bit of money in. The water mitigation, where the water's coming in on the side of the building into the basement, a little bit of the framing work to shore it up, and like you said, the outside of it needs pressure washed. We can do a lot of things in-house for a little bit of money that would probably enhance, if you decide to sell, enhance the value of it to recoup your, more money out of it. But yeah, but we're game to go any way you want to go with it. Yep.
Well, and I know we're using the other building, offices. We now have employees that are closer. Pickleball in there, is that going to go on that rubber floor?
So yes, so we'll have three pickleball courts lined out on the new, as well as a basketball court when we install the new flooring in the gym.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just going to say this. I said it in the last meeting, but I want you to know, on that building, part of the reason I feel the way I do about that purchase, because the building across the street from the chapel itself, I wasn't on council or mayor or anything else when that was purchased, but in a lot of ways, that building looks as something that would be useful to us. I really am not dogmatic one way or another on that. I feel differently about the chapel, but I do want you to know that prior to that purchase, I knew that there was a private business owner, not business owner, yeah, a private business person, local, that was looking at that property. And they were discouraged by someone in city government that's no longer here that it would cost money to fix that, and you shouldn't buy that. We bought it right out from under them. And that's why I have very mixed feelings about that. And I had permission to say that. I will not use his name, but I knew about it ahead of time that he's looking at it because he told me, but he said not to say anything. He says, I'm looking at it, thinking about a special venue, a wedding venue. And I wouldn't say that, except that I just think people need to know that that stuff happens sometime and it's not okay. And it needs to be exposed when it does happen. Don't plan on allowing something like that to happen under this administration. That's not okay, to do that to a local business person. But anyway, it looks like we are at least taking the building across the street and making it useful for parks and recreation and that type of thing. Page 45.
You going back?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. That was train travel. Already did that. Lost. 70, am I past 73? No.
Like 80.
Past that. 98. At the very top, has to do with seasonal temporary employees, just to get updated for all of us on the governing body, because I know at times we used to use the jail crews, and we don't have them available, although they were made available to us for a particular project. What was that? Jeff had given a call up. Oh, the landscape. That's it. It says overtime for temps to work events, setup, and working events. So who are we using to do that temporary work if it's not the public service? You know, the people that have to get the public community service hours? Okay, I was not aware of that, and if anybody else wasn't, now you know. We are hiring, I'm not saying it's wrong, I just want to know that it exists, that we do hire some temporary people to do the setup. See, I thought we were doing it all in-house, but the jail crews used to help us a lot, and that was a massive loss when we didn't get those anymore from Carroll County. We did get them back after COVID from Douglas County. They never came back from Carroll. That might change in the future. I think we have somebody has a good connection there, just maybe. But they had also been short guards. And so sometimes they didn't have the guard to send with them. On page 100, this is more of a yay, and you'll be glad to know that I'm almost done. I want you to look at that list on 100. North Avenue Gym, $95,000, funded by SPLOST. Convert the tennis courts to pickleball at Gold Dust and add lighting. That's $245,000. It's funded by SPLOST. I want to mention SPLOST. Then the Gold Dust basketball gym bleachers, they're in bad shape, aren't they? $115,000, that's SPLOST. So is the demo and the rebuild of the baseball concession stand, and so is the construction of the tennis courts at Powell Park. I'm not crazy about property tax, but it's the system we live in. But I'm telling you right now, that SPLOST tax that adds a penny on, it goes a long way, and we all pay it. But what's even better than we all pay it when we buy something is everyone that passes through our town or comes here and buys anything helps with that one penny, and it adds up. And so things that we would normally be able to pay for in our budget, I'm telling you, SPLOST can be abused, but in the cases I'm seeing in our budget, I'm looking at, we are getting good things for our people, and it's covered by that penny tax. So that, I know it sounds like a commercial, but I like that over property tax. We pay less property tax because we have SPLOST. And people that don't even own property pay it too. Everybody does. Nobody gets away with it. Even the people that cheat on their taxes do not get away with this, because when they go to buy something, they pay that penny. And that's why a consumption tax can be so beneficial to the rest of us, including anybody that owns property. So that's just, I'm just bragging on a tax, believe it or not, because it keeps property tax lower and everybody participates, whether they live here or not. It's just a good thing. Had no question, aren't you glad? Page 103, real quick question. This is Parks and Recreation. I see that we're adding a track program, and it's also good to know when you see this money getting spent on some of the programs we offer, there's also revenue coming in. So you might look down and go, oh my gosh, we're paying how much for a program? Often that program has a fee, like whoever does gymnastics for us. That's a contractor who comes in to our recreation department, puts on gymnastics and pays a fee for it. And so money getting spent comes back to us. Does that make sense? You know, that we're not really spending all that money, we're getting revenue back for it. My only question about the track and field, track, is where are they going to practice? Are they using the high school track? I know we don't have a track. Oh, I asked a question you don't know. It's okay. I'll find out later.
Yeah, Tracy had a personal emergency that she had to
Okay.
tend to, so.
That's okay. I'll find out later. It was just a curious, it's not, my husband built 5 state championship teams that did not have tracks. They had a small Christian school. They went over and used the rich private school's track, and they let them use it for free, you know. And so I started thinking, somebody's using somebody's track, because I know we don't have one. All right, I'll leave that tab in and ask her how we're going to run that, what the plan is for running that program. And 104, on page 104, I think I already mentioned that. The only other thing I mentioned that would relate to recreation is we are working on ways to bring in more revenue. We just haven't had time to spend on it with the local coaches. You can bring in a lot of revenue with tournaments. Even when I was in school and our teams went to compete in other cities, when you have regional and state meets, you'll see it in Carrollton, brings in all your athletes, brings in their families that want to see their kids compete. So that's something we will be looking at as well, and it might help fund further upgrading of our facilities. We just got to make sure it doesn't compete with our recreation department.
Mayor,
But it can bring in revenue.
can I add?
Yes, Councilwoman.
Not only do the tournaments bring in revenue in itself, but it's also bringing in people who are going to stay in your hotels, who are going to go eat at your restaurants, which is why we need a variety of restaurants, and they're going to shop at your local stores. So just to add in that that's also going to help bring in your sales tax revenue and help your small businesses.
Yep, and the hotels have their hotel motel tax, so when everybody's successful, it helps all of us. We went on a field trip on that up to Beaufort with a group of people. It's just that theirs wasn't quite apples and apples with the way we'd need to do it here, but it was still helpful and educational, and they gave their time free to us. Library.
Before you move
Yes.
any further, Tracy Ivy did text me back. She said the Villa Rica High School.
That would make sense. That's the closest one.
So you
Okay,
can remove that tab.
good for them. Thank you. I can't find it now. It's
I know
buried with
that
the other one.
I know that Tracy's worked really hard to work directly with the schools, with Parks and Rec, and I know that the schools are wanting to work closely with the rec department as well.
Also a cost savings, when you can build things together that you can share. I watched that in the county I came from, that I grew up in, how the school board, they built the pool on the school property. County paid for certain part of it. Well, actually, they ran the pool. The kids from the high school that were on the team got first dibs after school. In the summer, all the park and recreation summer camps used it. And so, but it had several government entities that participated, and that's how you can make some of those things affordable, is you go in together on it. Library. Okay, so this one, not picking on you library people. You have got to tell me what this $4,000 children's mural is and what it does. Because, well, I'll just ask a question. Anybody speak to the mural?
I can't speak directly for Miss Rachel, but I believe it was supposed to be an interactive type exhibit in the children's area that had a mural kind of back behind it. It's supposed really cool concept. I've seen pictures of things, but it's supposed to be almost like an exhibit or an amenity to that whole area, not just a painting on the wall.
I thought it had to be something different, like you'd find in a children's museum, but when you only have mural and no notes,
Right.
It's sensory driven. It's very sensory driven.
okay. Now, I'll just throw this out there as a possibility, if we look for savings and how to do things. I was told by someone who had been intimately involved with the library situation over years that a lot of times your friends of the library will help you do these things, because Friends of the Library, volunteer group, they do fundraising to get extras for the library that maybe you may not be able to afford in the budget. But I'll just throw that out there. Georgia State Parks do the same thing with the Georgia State Parks. The only reason they're in the condition they're in right now is because of the private nonprofit that exists. But anyway, just throw that out there. There might be a way for some of these things. But I might be totally convinced when you tell me how wonderful it is, but it only said mural, so I'm like, it can't be $4,000. We'll get our local artist people, and they'll go over and paint a mural for free, because we have artists here in Villa Rica. So
It'll be,
I'm leaving the tab in, so somebody can tell me how wonderful it is,
we'll get that information.
and
to you.
convince me that it's worth
I'll convince you.
$4,000, that it's not just a painting.
It's
Okay.
not just a painting.
Okay, thank you. All right, and almost last but not least, page 135. This is only a gripe for Douglas County, who charges us $80,000 for animal control. Carroll County charges us nothing for animal control. And everybody that lives in Villa Rica, within city limits and outside, we all pay county taxes. So the Douglas County side of the city pays county taxes, the Carroll County pays taxes, which is why they give us a discount on certain things like, with like sports. If we provide the sports activity in our intergovernmental agreement, we'll pay less because we're providing an amenity that they're not doing. I don't think this contract is up for a while, or intergovernmental agreement.
This is part of the service delivery agreement, and that's for 10 years, and I think we're only in year 2 or 3 of it.
Wasn't it 45,000 back a number of years ago? And I don't usually remember numbers, but these numbers irritated me from the time they came from Douglas County.
Well, based on the history, it looks like in 2021 it was about 61,000, and it's grown ever since, maybe with the exception of 2022.
Okay, I'll bet you it was. It was like 45,000, now it's 80. Can we at least request from them, and this is a nice way, there was a time when we used to request a monthly report, to at least have some accountability of what service they were providing. It would be the calls they got from our area. How about if we just ask them for a quarterly report? We want to know, for $80,000, the service that we're getting from the county. Raccoons, rabid raccoons, whatever it is, some kind of report and accountability for the money we're paying for them to provide that service. Because I asked Mr. Barber probably a couple years ago, is it possible that we could use Carroll County? I was told yes, I don't know, that we could use Carroll County on that side of the city and pay them to do that side of the city and might get it for less. I was told that legally we could do that. I'm probably going to have to ask again. But we have 2 different animal control rules for 2 different sides of the city. They don't have the same policies we do. You can't tether a dog 24/7 on the Douglas County side, but you can on the Carroll County side. So we're not even operating with the same ordinances for animal control within our city because we're in 2 different counties. And I only know that because I reviewed the animal control ordinances some years when we were trying to change Carroll County. Yes, Councilman Carter.
Okay, where did the number come from? Did you get that number from them?
It is a percentage of the budget based on the service delivery agreement, and I think it's like a little over 5% of their budget.
That's where the 80,000 came from? Okay.
Because their budget's going to go up every year. So it's an estimate based on what we paid this year.
So just something to consider. Maybe I'm out in left field, but is it possible we could have one animal control cover the whole city?
That would be illegal, with it being tied into a service delivery agreement. I don't know.
And of course, the county, Carroll County, would have to be agreeable to it for the whole city. Okay, just something to think about, because I don't think we're. Service. Yes, Councilman McCoy.
Well, to kind of piggyback on the mayor's point, I have a former family member who did not have the greatest experience with Douglas County Animal Control after he got bit. So, but after that, what else is in the service agreement besides animal control, and what is the total amount that we're paying Douglas County?
Animal control is one, and then we pay around 42% of our insurance premium tax.
Okay.
To Douglas County.
That's it? There's no fire or anything in it?
That is for the
Okay.
fire part. And then the other portion of the fire that's capital related comes out of our SPLOST proceeds that we receive.
Okay. Thank you.
Last, 145, page 145, north side downtown streetscape. Above that, it's talking about, it looks like some grant money for the shoreline connector, help with the lights and all, the grant revenue, there it is, the 1.7. Not that one, right under that. There's an ARC grant, and it requires a match. What exactly is that north side? So it'd be right out here, downtown streetscape. Can anybody tell me what we're doing there? Because I know we had a whole concept plan for this area, but,
So it's the design portion of the LCI.
okay, LCI. There you go.
Yeah.
That's what I needed to
ARC grant
know.
equals LCI.
Oh, that's right. We had to get it through. Got it. Okay. Believe it or not, that's it for me. Anybody else? Questions?
Can I make one statement before we open it up to public comment? Sorry, this goes back to the, I guess, totality of the budget, not necessarily any one line item or expenditure account. But as I've worked alongside Jeff for the last 2 months, I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to say something in his absence this evening. Jeff came out of retirement because he loves Villa Rica. Not one project, not one person. He loves this entire city with his whole heart. Even on tough days, and we've had a few, Jeff continues to be encouraged with the hope that this city can be. And one thing this city needs right now more than anything is to move forward with continued hope. Whether it is for a project to make the list for funding for this budget, for a project to make it all the way to completion, or simply acknowledge that a problem exists and a project should be developed. I think that's one commonality that we all share as stakeholders, whether we be employees, elected officials, or residents. We all want a better future. The city has experienced some tough times over this last year. And while Jeff and I were not here to endure every moment, we've made it our mission to listen. Whether it is a resident upset because they didn't previously receive a call back, or a neighborhood concerned about what its footprint will look like in 10 years. We listened. And if an employee was promised a wage increase or staffing levels needed to be looked at, we've listened. We may not have all the answers, but we have good intentions and we have hope. So I'm asking you tonight, for myself and for Jeff, please consider the budget you have before you and the hope that it continues to bring all of those that you represent. Whether it's a water customer hoping for a line improvement, an expansion of the North Bypass that could open up economic development doors for our future, a police force wanting the training and equipment so that they're amply supplied for a critical response situation, a pickleball player wanting dedicated courts for a growing sport, or for our greatest asset, our employees, waiting yet another year for a promised market wage. Please keep their hope and the future of our city. Please support this budget as proposed to include the funding of the salary study. Thank you.
Okay, did you consult with Jeff on that? Did you and Jeff, okay, you and Jeff cooperated? Because he called me later today, yeah.
And I'll just say, he may be operating out of a hospital room, but he is operating. We've been on the calls regularly, emails. I'm still sending reports of things, getting feedback. I know he's making calls to necessary staff members to get some things done. And this is not one of our regular meetings, so we didn't have the whole opening of prayer, but I will tell you, prayers are greatly appreciated in this situation. In him dealing with his wife's cancer and the downturn that it took. But last I heard, her fever was gone, and I'm just hoping, and I know they are, that they've been up in North Fulton, no vehicle, anything, because it was ambulance transport, no way to get around, and I'm like, we can come, we've got enough people here, we could send somebody up if you need something. So they know that's available from any number of us that could make a trip up there or to bring them home if needed. So hopefully, I think the main prayer would be now is that that fever would stay gone and that they can get back close to home, even if it's in a hospital. And so I know that's really appreciated. So we now will move into the public hearing. This is the second public hearing for the budget. The third and final hearing will be next Tuesday, when the budget will also be voted on. Oh.
This is the final public hearing.
Oh, there's no, okay,
So it isn't voted on tonight, but this is the second and final public hearing.
I see. 3 for the millage rate, 2 for the budget. Got it. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification and making sure to correct me. Okay, so we're going to move to public hearing. Jeremy, is it Brown? Okay. Pamela White?
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Just wanted to get up here first, send our compassion and our empathy to Mr. Reese. He and I have been in touch, and they are in our prayers. We know in his absence that there's nothing that can be done. We totally understand that. That's absolutely no problem. We understand that. However, Leslie, you need to stop going down that WLBB talking about the community and keeping stuff going. Mr. Reese, which is the day-to-day operator of the city, has made it, like I said, we know that his circumstances and nothing can be done. But when you go to WLBB or wherever else and you say that everything is okay, that we are all right, we're not all right. If you recall, the road over there, it's not paused because you all failed to vote on it. So that's still a go. So it's not paused. So it's keeping us in a sticky situation. And it's just unfair that you go about and you run the city like that's what your job is. Your job is important, but we know that you're not the one that do the day-to-day operation and make the decisions basically about anything, because you don't vote on anything. And then with the next person that be in line would be Miss DeSanto, and we don't bother her because we know that her and Jeff has to work hand in hand. But it really bothers us that when we have to turn on the radio, you're saying things that's not valid. And it's painting a picture to people in whatever audience as if things are okay. And it makes it look like we're just angry people coming up here. Our property and stuff is important to us. And we're not letting you have it. So, pushing it, we're not letting you have it. I would really suggest y'all go to the table with Fuqua Development. And y'all need to get out of them bad contracts, because them contracts are really bad. They show that they didn't have good intentions. And it's in y'all's hands. You can't vote on it now, Because you the mayor, you went from one level to the next. When you voted on something, you went from there, and now you at a position where you can't vote on it. And like I say, it's important to us. So we just really wish that if anything gonna be put out, give us the same courtesy. Everything that we brought forth to you all, we have proof of it. I'm not gonna speak nothing negative. Everything is facts.
Alita Farmer.
Good evening. I'm Alita Farmer, Dobbs Farmer, represent 216 Anderson Road. I'm here just to kind of piggyback on some of the information that was shared last week, or well, the previous meeting, in regards to how the funding is being handled with the grant money that was received for our community. I did notice that on page 140, I think it's 44, that there are some mention of some money, but it's not itemized. And so for us in our community, because it hasn't been transparent as where the money is going, we need itemized information about our budget for the community. That TAD money, the East Village TAD money, where is it going? Who's getting it? How you're spending it? Also, we need to also have a better understanding. I have spoken to Mr. Reese, and again, my sincere hopes that his wife gets better. But he has expressed to me that there are some money for us. Again, I'm going to say this to everyone here. If it's some money for us, put it in writing. If you want us to believe that y'all have good intentions about our Anderson Road, McCauley, Ruby, you will put it in writing. And what we mean by that, just like I see it itemized about 2 pickleball courts, a revision with the tennis court, and all of those things. I want it broken down as to how you're going to spend money. I don't see any specific information about our community. Also, in regards to last week, you also talked a lot about the church that you spent $1 million on, $1 million on. And now you're talking about that you had in the budget of over $200,000 to repair. But now you broke it down to $92,000. So it's a shame that we couldn't even get a bathroom. It's a shame we don't even have a park.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak during the public hearing? Name and address for the record.
Joshua Evans, 640 Cleveland Street, Little Rock, Georgia. So I don't disagree, because I've been on the opposite end of working for cities and county government. Well, you've been an employee, and it seems like you're not being appreciated or anything else when you got guys that come in, and I've been there. Now they've come in the door 2 years later than what somebody else has hired, but they make more than that person that's been there for 2 years. I have to agree with Ms. Marshman. The guys that's been here for years and years and years, we need to get them where they supposed to be. We need to bump them where they supposed to be. They don't supposed to be down here making less than the man that just come in the door. We don't. That's not tolerated. That ain't right. I remember having to go to ARC, Atlanta Regional Commission, for the city of McDonough, for each and every water and sewer employee there. Turn them in and told them we want a pay study done. 3 cities around us and 3 counties around us, we got $3.50 an hour raises. They set a new pay rate what you come in the door at. Okay, so I've been on that side. With all that being said, I don't disagree with any workers being paid what they need to be paid. What I do disagree upon is that $434,000 project down here. They shouldn't have took nowhere near that. Then I just got to listen to somebody say something about a machine that goes on a truck. and I asked on my street for y'all to come do that, and y'all did it. Oh, your street's fine. No, it's not. Got tractor trailer on every day. It's ripping it up. There's potholes in it now. If the street was fine, why did the city come out where the street was having waves in it when it was so hot when them trucks were turning? Why did the city have to come out and patch all those potholes with their new pothole patching machine? If that street was fine according to that machine that y'all bought. I ain't buying that on that machine. I'm just going to go ahead and tell y'all that machine ain't worth 2 cents. You can walk up and look at that street till it's cracking. And it's got potholes in it. If your machine couldn't tell you that, you probably need to send it on back to them and tell them, hey, this thing ain't working right or we don't know how to use it. I'm just telling you. I mean, you got water lines down here that's got concrete on top of them now. You got copper and plastic. What you think the calcium in that concrete's going to do to them water lines? I guarantee y'all, 5 years from now, you're going to bust that sidewalk back up and fix pinholes. Guarantee. When they flush that hydrant and that water moves on them lines, it's going to vibrate. It's common sense. Y'all got to get it together. Your stormwater program. If you start writing fines, you got all this money instead of having to worry about where you're going to come up with it for a budget. You start sending out tickets and fines, stop work orders. You start doing that. You got a lot of money sitting there waiting.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak during the public hearing? Then lastly, I'll say at our last main meeting, I did say that we would do a town hall as soon as we could get everything together. Obviously, I think everyone knows that it's very important that Mr. Reese has to be there to do the presentation, so I can't say exactly. I was hoping it would be at the latest this Thursday, but we will do it as soon as we can, as soon as we get him back here and we've got all the paperwork and documentation together. I didn't bring my reminder. We're going to be going into executive session.
We'll need a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of deliberating upon appointment, employment, compensation, hiring of a public officer or employee as provided in OCGA 50-14-3B2.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor? Going into executive session. We will reconvene afterwards.